Yes.
Dr. Fry, Mrs. Thomas has her hand up.
Yes, Mrs. Thomas.
Thank you. Well, this is the end to Bill C-18, and it will now be forwarded to the House. And so I would just like to go on the record saying this bill started out with the intent, or the stated intent, of wanting to help newspapers, particularly those in rural areas that are of a smaller nature, along with ethnic media outreach or newspapers. And unfortunately, the way that this legislation has developed and the way that it is going forward to the House, it will reward the big players such as the CBC, which already receives over $1 billion in taxpayer money. This legislation will support Bell Media, and this legislation will support Rogers. They together will take about 75 to 80% of the money available through Bill C-18, which leaves a very small cut then for newspapers to take. And once the larger players, such as Post Media, Torstar, and Globe and Mail, take their portion, it leaves even a smaller piece of the pie, if any, for those small players that function within our rural areas, particularly in Western Canada. It's a sad day for those news outlets, and it's incredibly hypocritical that this bill leads out with a preamble that wants to look after the sustainability of news and support good journalism, and yet it has gutted the ability for these smaller outlets to exist. It's shameful that the NDP member actually ended up withdrawing his amendment that would advocate for those smaller players, yet continues to use talking points as if he is advocating for them. He does not have their back. He had an opportunity to vote for amendments that would allow entities with one journalist to be considered. Again, I'll repeat, he withdrew that off the table. Instead, he went into the pocket of the Liberals, as is the mode of operation of what the NDP are doing in this House at this time. Again, it's a sad day for those smaller news outlets, and my condolences to them.
Ms. Gladue?
Thank you, Chair. I also agree that the legislation, unfortunately, is not going to meet its intended purpose. I did vote for the purpose in Clause 4, but as I've said, I don't think it will. I want to remind the government that the tech giants are willing to put money forward to go into a fund that could be administered by an agglomeration of small media outlets so that they could make sure that their viability is protected. And this is a much less bureaucratic and, leaves the independence of the internet. So I just remind the government they can still do that at any time.
Ms. Gladue, thank you.
Dr. Fry, on the
I have
floor,
one more question to ask. Who else is on
there
the floor?
are
I have one more question to ask, and then we can have the summary discussions afterwards. Shall the committee order a reprint of the bill as amended for the use of the House at the fourth stage?
Madam Chair?
Yes, good. Okay, yes, Mr. Vella.
I'm not sure there was an answer to the question. Shall you report the bill as amended to the House?
Yes, I thought there was.
Yeah.
Yes, there was. Thank you.
Dr. Fry,